find the book extremely beautiful. It's something you really want to hold in your hands, and it's full of magnificent speeches from magnificent people, except for Hitler and Mussolini and Goebbels. But that's good to put them in a comparison. Larry wanted me to actually do a little bit of where I'm at the moment to introduce the book, and I was on what's his name? James Valentine today for half an hour. And I guess I'll redo the sort of speech that Larry has printed in the book that I gave last year. It's in San Diego, I think, one of those places. Los Angeles. Yeah, one of those places. Yes, the problem is in the world today, and that's the most significant problem we face, and that no one's attending to it except Barack Obama in one of his speeches, is that contrary to what everyone thinks and believes, we are still in great risk of having a nuclear war between Russia and America. Even though they're friends, and today is the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, 20th anniversary, nothing has changed. The weapons are still in place, ready to go. America's got 5,000 hydrogen bombs ready to be launched with a 3-minute decision time by Barack Obama, and they take only half an hour to go from America to Russia. Also, since the Cold War ended, America has also targeted China. There are only 240 major cities in the Northern Hemisphere, hence there's such a redundancy of weapons that New York's targeted with 40 hydrogen bombs, and I wrote an article with Robert McNamara about that before he died. Washington 40, Sydney would have at least a couple. Russia's got 2,500 H-bombs ready to launch. They're a little clinically paranoid because their early warning systems don't work anymore. They're dilapidated. Their satellites, early warning satellites, don't work. They've got an over-horizon radar which just tells them minutes before the bombs land, and what they know is that America's still got a policy to fight and win a nuclear war. Now, how does one win a nuclear war? This is Pentagon thinking. It's really testosterone thinking, which has driven wars from the beginning of time, and Larry writes about this. What you do is you first send off some missiles and you, quotes, decapitate Moscow. That means you kill Putin. Notice the language. And so then Putin can't press his button. And within a few short minutes, when you've done that, your missiles are on the way to land on all the Russian missile silos, 2 hydrogen bombs on each missile silo, but they have to come within 3 minutes of each other, otherwise you get what's called fratricide. Fratricide means killing your brother. Such a debris is thrown up that the momentum of the second bomb causes it to shatter and it won't explode appropriately. So you knock out all the Russian missile silos and you've won the nuclear war. The fact that that would create a nuclear winter and the end of billions of lives is called by the Pentagon collateral damage. So if you look at the way they use language, the missiles have arms, they grow whiskers when they get old, they're warheads. There's a human language to describe the weapons, whereas we're just really components of a system, and that's collateral damage. So the Russians, being similarly psychologically organised, so to speak, they don't want to lose the nuclear war. So they've dug a huge hole in the Ural Mountains with a missile called the Dead Hand. And if they detect American missiles coming to kill their missiles, they launch the Dead Hand, which automatically, by computer control, sends a message to every single missile silo in Russia to launch so that the American missiles hit empty silos. The fact that both the weapons cross mid-space and the whole thing's over in an hour is sort of a side effect. It's not really relevant to the thinking of fighting and winning a nuclear war, or prevailing. Now the fact is that because there are so few cities, but such a redundancy of weapons, and in the past no president has ever looked and supervised the targeting strategy. Senior generals didn't either. It was given to junior officers, and as America put out 77,000 hydrogen bombs over the years of the Cold War, I mean, just really nuclear addiction, insanity really, these young officers would just like pin the tail on the donkey. Everything's targeted, which is precious to the enemy. And as one general, I've got it in one of my books, said, look, if the enemy holds most dear grandmothers, that's what we target. And I was very offended because I'm a grandmother. They target shoe factories, weapons factories. All universities are targeted, railroad crossings are targeted. And as I said, since the Cold War ended, America's had the audacity to target China. We have 34 US bases. They're all targeted, including Pine Gap, which is the biggest CIA base in the world, which is orchestrating killing with the drones in Iraq and Afghanistan by remote control, which would orchestrate a nuclear war, which would orchestrate missile defence, which will never work anyway, and will orchestrate the weaponization of space, which America is proceeding with as we speak. There's a treaty up before the UN organised by Russia and China so that it bans weapons in space, but America won't sign it. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Obama, and they're coming up with a new nuclear posture of view. So, and on 9/11, this is what you need to know, the anxiety was so great, and the misunderstanding of what was happening, they had no idea. And W was flying around in Air Force One, they didn't know what to do with him. After he'd been reading My Pet Go to the Kindergarten in Florida. Cheney, who was clinically paranoid, was in the basement of the White House, you know, orchestrating God knows what. And that automatically, the nuclear weapons high alert system went from DEFCON 6, which is the lowest state of nuclear alert, to 5, 4, 3, 2, which is the highest state of nuclear alert before the men in the missile silos get the keys out to turn the locks. The men are aged 18 to 21, yes sir, no sir, like Pavlovian dogs. They each are armed with a pistol, one to shoot the other if one shows signs of deviant behaviour. All psychologists think about that. And there are locks 6 feet apart, so one man can't turn both locks, but they've worked out the key and string trick. If one guy ties a bit of string with one key, one man can launch the missiles by himself. There are 14 Trident submarines at sea at any one time. On each Trident, Russians don't have any nuclear subs now, they're all dilapidated, and they're all in port decaying, and the nuclear radiation's leaking out. It's just a disaster. But each submarine has 24 missiles, and each missile is armed with 8 hydrogen bombs, I think 30 times larger, 3 or 30, I can't remember the number, than the Hiroshima bomb. So if you multiply 8 by 24, I'm not going to do it at the moment, that's a hell of a lot of bombs. And the missiles are MIRVed, it means multiple independent re-entry vehicles. The re-entry vehicles are the bombs. So you launch the missile, the bottom of the missile drops off, like in the Challenger and stuff. No, that's the wrong one to choose. But anyway, then the bus, which is the front of the missile containing its passengers, notice the language, the hydrogen bombs, continues through space, and then the passengers are dropped off at intervals, and each has its own independent targeting mechanism, so they land very accurately on target. There are 14 of these monsters in the sea all the time. We are an integral part of the American system. It's not defence, it's war, it's actually the Department of Annihilation. And we could do something about this. And furthermore, we're selling uranium as if there's no tomorrow, which there may well not be. Any country that buys our uranium and builds a reactor has a bomb factory. Because you can make about 50 nuclear weapons each year from the plutonium made in a nuclear reactor. What we're doing is utterly immoral.